And I think also a big piece for me was like forgiving myself, like in my 30s, forgiving the 20-year-old Zach or the
Mm,
18-year-old Zach or the 25-year-old Zach that had so much tension and just like, I don't want to call it rage, but I just wanted
mm,
to do something. And I was always hard on myself. My self-talk was crazy,
mm,
just mean to myself, nice
mm,
to other people, but pretty mean to myself.
mhm,
And now as a 40-year-old, I notice, especially in like a mountain race, when it's super hard, my like self-talk is the most positive there is. I'm like, come on,
wow.
man, like come on. But like before, it would have been like, oh, you suck. Like, look at you, you're struggling. Like
Mm,
you're pathetic. So
mm,
that changed. That's something I learned is just to be like easy on yourself and go back and forgive those older versions of yourself that maybe you have some issues with.
mm.
Uh,
Hello and welcome to the Soul Awakening podcast. I'm your host, Kat Fowler, and I'm super excited to bring this episode to you today. So, I have on a friend of mine, Zach, who I've known for a few years. He's a professional athlete. He runs his own nonprofit. And I've just seen an entire transformation of his life since he went through his spiritual journey and how now he is helping so many people around the world. He regularly gives talks around the world. He was telling me after how he's been on over 50 flights or something in the last year. He's just an inspiration to so many people within his community, but also without. And a lot of this really he attributes to his spiritual awakening. And so that's why I wanted to have him on the show because Zach is living a super full life, uh, way more than most of us can even achieve in this lifetime through the power of his own spiritual practice and doing the healing work within. So I'm going to read Zach's bio for you so you get to know a little bit about who he is. So, Zachary Friedley is a professional trail runner whose life mission is to make trails more accessible to people with disabilities. As a sponsored athlete with On, Zachary is one of a handful of above knee trailblazers in the world, racing on a professional level, a circumstance he aims to change through his advocacy and DEI work. In 2025, Zachary is collaborating closely with On and other major brands and race organizers to develop new adaptive athlete divisions and policies to welcome disabled runners to major trail racing events around the world. As an athlete, Zachary raced and finished several UTMB World Series races in New Zealand, France, Spain, and Switzerland. In 2024, he raced and completed Sierra Zinal in Switzerland. Through his nonprofit organization, Mendocino Movement Project, Zachary also hosts multiple trail races called Born to Adapt, which he invites adaptive runners of all abilities to get out on the trails. Zachary trains in beautiful California on the Sonoma coast, where he lives with his wife Megan and their tiny dog Cleo. So I'm super excited for you to tune into this conversation today. We were sharing just a bit of our personal spiritual journey, but then also we talk about his role as an athlete, sports psychology, how spirituality really ties into that, the role of meditation, and how that's helped him through some difficult mountains, literally mountains and trails that he's been on, and the spiritual awakening and how healing the body really helped heal his mind and helped him become a better and a professional athlete in his life. And that's what also allows him to help others. So hopefully, this interview is inspiring to you in many ways and enjoy. And I will see you at the end of the show. All right. So, hello and welcome to the Soul Awakening podcast, Zach. I'm so excited to have you on. I've thought about interviewing you for a while, actually, and then the show took a little pause, and now we're back. So, I'm super happy to have you as a guest on the show today.
yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. So, we have known each other, I don't know, 5+ years, maybe.
Well, probably 2018,
Wow.
since
Okay.
before I went to India.
Okay. Yeah. 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 And so we met through, well, my family was part of this ashram for a long time, and then you found it through Sam, right?
Yep.
And so we could talk a little bit about that. But just to start off for the listeners, if you could just share a little bit about your journey in
Yeah.
life and then also your spiritual journey and what
Yeah.
brought you into, because you have one of the most positive dispositions I've ever met in a person. And it's really inspiring. And you do so much work in the world and you help a lot of people. So I do think it'll be nice just to hear from your words what exactly you do and how you got on that path.
Yeah, so I wear many hats in the world. I wear a hat as a professional athlete. I'm a nonprofit founder, a visionary, disability advocate, friend, husband.
Mm,
So yeah, I do a lot of different things in the world. I think the most important thing to me is being able to show up for my community, which is the disabled community. I was born missing my right leg above the knee and missing some fingers. And so that's like my normal.
mhm,
And I actually didn't use the word disability until I was in my 30s,
mm,
because the word had kind of like a negative connotation. At least
mhm,
that's what I was told as I was a kid.
mhm, mhm,
So yeah, through my running and the nonprofit, I get to advocate for more access for the disabled community, mainly for the outdoors, access to like trails and parks and races, and just kind of giving people some information to help them see maybe a better system in the world.
mhm,
Because the biggest barrier for the disabled community isn't the disability, it's the systems that are in place for these people.
mm,
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I do. It's like my day to day. I do a lot
mm.
of running.
How did you get into your spiritual journey with everything, with your through your running and your nonprofit?
Yeah, so when I was like 29, 30, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri,
Mhm,
and I was looking for something more, and I was like super depressed. Um, drinking alcohol a lot, going out on the weekends, and just like really, really empty.
mhm,
And I needed something else, but I didn't know what it was. And I ended up basically moving from Kansas City to Philadelphia, and I was a nanny to these two girls who had just lost their mom.
oh,
So I had meaning. These girls needed me,
mhm,
and I
mhm,
needed them. But I did
mhm,
that for a year, and then came to California, and I lived in Northern California, which is a little different than Kansas City, Missouri.
mhm,
So I started meeting different people. I had some mentors show up that were older guys that were like in their 80s, and Sam was one of them.
right.
Um, and yeah, so like one of them was Sam. I had another mentor. His name's Fred Mittauer. He's a somatic transformational body worker.
Mhm,
And how I can describe that is he works on your body, but he also works on your soul and energetics and past timelines and generate just so much stuff. And this Midwest guy, me, is on his table doing all this work, which really opened me up to the world. And that's kind of how I found meditation in India. And then it's just been like life after that has been completely different, you know?
yeah. So with those sessions, how was that for you? Like, I'm just curious, did you find anything come up like past life or anything like that with your, current circumstances or your body or like how was that? Because I know just as a yoga practitioner and someone that has done energy healing and received energy healing and things like that, I've had times where sometimes I'm just in a yoga class or I'm doing my own practice and out of nowhere you're just like, "Oh my God, what is this emotion?" And it just
Yeah.
like it just comes up because you're or someone if you get like a massage. Once I had a physical therapist, a really good one, um, after I had knee surgery in the past, and she was just pressing on some of the muscles that were kind of tight, and she just held it. And then I was kind of like, that kind of hurts. Can you move it? And she was like, no. And then within like 2 minutes, I'm like crying, just crying. And
Yep.
I'm like, what is this? Like, where is this coming from? So yeah, if you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the body holds a lot of things,
Yeah. Hmm.
and in my sessions with Fred, when I first went there, I would have the biggest cries of my entire life
Yeah.
for maybe 20 minutes, and then it could transition into the biggest laughter of my entire life. So
Yes.
we were just processing these things that you pick up as you grow up, maybe, as a kid and into adulthood. And then, because life is challenging, and there are like very big moments. And sometimes those moments get stuck in the body and you're not able to express them, or you're holding on to something. So, yeah, all sorts of things have come up. I've done so many sessions with Fred now. I started seeing him in 2017. I bet you had been on his table 100 times at least.
Wow.
And these sessions go from like an hour to 2 hours. And yeah, I've had like connections with like my grandma who's been passed away since I was in seventh grade. And like I'm
Mm.
like feeling that in my brain. And then Fred will be like, "Oh, your grandma's here." And we didn't even communicate it, you know?
Wow.
So things like that have happened. Um, and yeah, it's really opened me up to the world. It's allowed me to basically be who I wanted to be.
Hmm.
And it's ongoing. It wasn't like I went there and did 10 sessions and I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Right,
Uh, it's a process, and I check in with him quite often and I still see him.
right.
And since then, we've traveled to Switzerland and we've done talks on stages
Hmm.
and just kind of getting people in their body and to think about things,
Hmm.
because everybody's holding on to something. We all have trauma.
Hmm.
And I think it's important to acknowledge the trauma and let it pass through.
Yeah, it's interesting with energy healing. Um, when energy is moving through the body, people will respond in certain ways, and it's moving when, I mean, the muscles can actually twitch. This is without touching them. This can be distance, like they're on the phone or, over Zoom or whatever. Um, or they start yawning,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you start laughing or
totally.
crying. But it's like the energy is moving, so the body's just releasing it. And I've even seen one of the most interesting things that happened to me, and I've seen happen to others, is something called like a peaceful release, where you're not actually sobbing. You don't even actually feel sad. Like you don't feel the emotion, but your eyes just start watering and releasing down. So it's like
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
crying, but you're kind of not sobbing, but like you are crying. So it's really interesting how that stuff leaves the body. And what's really interesting too is when you brought up your grandmother, I was like, wow, I don't think we realize I know ancestral stuff is real, like ancestral trauma and things and breaking generational curses. That's very real. I
Totally.
know that. But for some reason, I never put two and two together and thought that can actually be stored in the body. And
Yeah.
that like, maybe in particular, in your example with your grandma, you were holding on to something for her to which your healer helped you, and you really ultimately doing the healing because you were ready to do that, released it. So I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I was young when she died, and I remember it was the most traumatic thing that I
Mm,
remember being like seventh grade, just like crying, sobbing. She
mm.
died unexpectedly. It wasn't, like she had cancer or something. She like went to the hospital and then never left and died.
Oh, wow. Mm,
Um, and I think too, she was really close to me. She was like, she like saw me, like she saw me,
hmm.
and
Hmm.
I think I just knew that I wasn't gonna have that for a while
Hmm.
after she died. But yeah, it's cool to like kind of go back and heal those moments. It's like almost like time
Hmm.
traveling. And when it's time to heal it, I think it's time to heal it, and it was time for me.
Right. So when you do these talks with Fred, what exactly, like, what are some things that you guys share that could help listeners hearing this on how to get into their body and start releasing some of that stuff on their own if they don't have necessarily like a practitioner nearby?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just taking a moment to just be and not
Hmm.
thinking about the past or the future. And you're
Hmm.
just with yourself and you're breathing and taking inventory of things that might come up. Maybe you feel something in your chest, or maybe you feel tightness in your stomach, or just things like that, and not really labeling it good or bad. It just
Hmm.
is something that you're observing and just kind of follow that, write it down, journal, and just be graceful with yourself in those moments and don't, like judge yourself of like, oh, this thing might have happened when I was a kid and,
Hmm.
all these things. So just kind of be like mellow. Fred can go way deeper into this than me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think just starting with your breath
Hmm.
and just seeing where maybe you have tension in your body and just being curious.
Mm. And so we know each other because we met because you started coming to satsangs for the ashram that my family has been a part of for a while. And obviously, we would always go to satsangs with Mahatmaji, who has passed. He's a saint, literally a saint. And so I'm wondering and I'm curious, like, how that part of your spiritual life has helped you with your healing and with your work as an athlete, especially the meditation portion. If you
Yeah,
found like a major difference between before and after, kind of. Um,
totally. There's
mhm.
there's like Zach before India and then Zach after India. Um, yeah, so that story is really interesting. How I found, I guess, how I stumbled upon it. Like
Mhm,
Sam and I met. I worked at Verizon, so I worked in
mhm,
this store
mhm.
in this small town in Northern California, and Sam came in, and he's just like a really interesting guy. I never met anybody like him,
I know.
and I helped him with something, and he basically was like, "Hey, we're going to be friends now." And then he started inviting me down to his studio to help him with computer stuff. And for a couple months, I was doing stuff on YouTube for him, and he kept always having these videos come in front of me. And it was, I forget who it was. It was maybe Vabuji was in it talking, and I
Mhm,
wasn't paying attention.
mhm,
And one day I was in there doing something, and he's like, "Oh, can you help me with this?" And I heard this like video playing in the background, and I'm like, "Wait, what's this guy talking about?" And I listened to it and was just really curious at this stuff that he was talking about. And then Sam invited me to Florida,
mhm,
and uh, I went to Florida with him and went to like a spiritual weekend. And next thing you know, I'm invited to India,
mm.
and I had never left the country in my entire life.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't
India
have a
is like.
Yeah. So I jumped off the deep end right away.
Mhm, mhm,
So I went to that summer thing in Orlando. I think it was June, and I was in India by October. So it was super quick.
mhm,
And I went to India. I was there for like 5 weeks. For like 3 or 4 of those weeks, I was with Muhammad Fakirnan and Prem Nagar,
mhm,
just with him every day. Like he was talking to me every day. We were doing things every day. And it wasn't like, oh, today's Monday, today's Tuesday, today's Wednesday. It was just this like the sun come up, the sun went down, and things were just like making sense to me. And
mhm.
I was going through this thing that it's hard to explain. But something happened to me. And Muhammad Fakir gave me the confidence to come back to the US and be the person that I've like always dreamed of being. And like at first when I got there, I was like, all right, I'm gonna live in an ashram forever and I'm gonna
I
become
had
a
the
Mahatma.
same, I had the same experience. I'll tell you after, but yes, yeah.
So I was like ready for it. And then he was
Mhm.
like, no, man, you're actually not gonna do that. I'm gonna do that and I'll be here meditating for you, but you're gonna go out in the world and you're gonna do some stuff. And I'm like, I am. And so yeah, it was like a very important piece of my journey that I literally probably think about once a day. Um, there's a picture of him and me that's on my phone in my favorites, and it's at the top. So I at least see it once a day. I do meditation throughout the day. I don't make a big scene about it. I'm not like, hey, I'm gonna go meditate in the corner and it's like 10
Mhm,
a.m. I just call on that at any moment. It may be
mhm.
on an airplane, it may be waiting in a doctor's office, it may be who knows. I have it whenever I want, which is really
Mhm,
cool. And
mhm,
it does help me move through life, you know? It's
mhm.
a gift that I had received and an experience that also I didn't order off the internet. I didn't pay
Right.
a bunch of money for it. It just happened, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No, I'm a firm believer that any connection that we have in this life that happens like that is due to karma and due to past life connections. And I had a very similar experience. Well, first off, as soon as you get out of the airport in India, it's like an intense experience, right? Like no one prepares you for that with the
No one
kids.
prepares you.
Right. And the density of like the energy is so different. The energy is so, it's not dense in a heavy way, but it's like, it's just a really different vibration. And
Yeah.
yeah. And then I remember when we got to the ashram first, I just like, we just walked in and I just had this vision. I think I had one suitcase, like a smaller one, but I had this vision that it was like from almost another time where I had all these old suitcases and then I just dropped them all. And I was just like, that's it. I'm staying here. I'm done. Like, this is where I'm going to be. I'm
Yeah.
same as you. I was like, I'm going to become a Baiji. I'm going to renounce everything. I think
Totally.
I was 23 when I went at the time. And I just had this like, everything stopped and I felt like I wanted to cry. And then I like, it almost was like, swoop, like went back to reality. And I was like, what was that? And then I was
Wild.
like, wait, I'm like, I can't do this. Like I have all these plans. Like I can't like it's
Yeah.
almost like I had like this moment though. I had the same thing. So I honestly wonder, it's funny hearing you say that and then me having a similar kind of experience like
Yeah.
maybe this is something that's happened before and that's why there's such a familiarity once we land in that same place, with the similar souls, just we're all in different bodies.
Totally.
Um, but so it's interesting and then also with you sharing about Mahatmaji just I mean, he is a truly self-realized soul, individual,
Yeah.
completely like sees through and beyond anybody he's ever looked at in every way. And
Totally.
I just felt like, yeah, like just even being around him or listening to him once they started doing everything virtually, like on Zoom, you are getting a transmission of energy that is so uplifting for your soul. It's like just the being in close proximity to someone like that with such a high spiritual vibration
Yeah.
automatically lifts your vibration.
Totally.
And it's like a tuning fork. Like he's like the master tuning fork. Like anybody that is a really a self-realized soul is a tuning fork that just starts to help fix the vibration of everybody that comes in their vicinity. And so the fact that you got to study with him and be with him for so long that's such a blessing, such a
Yeah.
blessing.
It was a big part of my journey. And
Yeah.
I just remember, he was in his 90s and his energy didn't make sense to his body. And I was
No.
just it was yeah, there was like how I also describe it to people is like some of the rules that I was given in life
Hmm.
dissolved there. It was very interesting.
What do you mean by that?
Like just like belief, like you believe like especially for me as a person that was born with a disability, it's very easy to be like, oh, you're going to be this because
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
this circumstance of your life.
Hmm.
Whereas like there, it was almost like, no, there's infinite possibility and you can do anything you want to do. Um,
Yes.
and so like that was kind of like old belief patterns that had dissolved. And it was important for me to have that. And then as soon as I came back, it was like a rocket ship.
I really also do believe that like we have these imprints, these impressions, like the programming from childhood, the things that we inherit from society, and even the things that we come in with from our past lives. And like when you are around somebody who is so spiritually elevated and or B doing your own spiritual practice deeply, like meditation, whatever that may be for whoever, is listening. Like it could be meditation, it could be yoga, but something that's deeply introspective where you're still, it's like I feel that's and through grace of connecting to your soul and the highest power, you're burning off those things. Like you are burning off the karmas. You're burning
Totally.
off those like imprints and impressions, and those beliefs that, you're saying. And I feel just being around someone like that also can just do that, like without even conscious thought, it's happening. Just
Yeah.
your auric field being next to their field and that proximity is just it's like that radiance. Um, and this is for anybody that's ever met, like it could be in any tradition. It could be in like a Buddhist tradition,
Totally.
in any holy person that you've met where you're just like, whoa, I feel like they're looking through me. And they know everything about you. They know all your good qualities. They see all your
Totally.
bad qualities. Yeah, Mahatmaji was really good at calling those out for me as
Right?
often as he needed to help really like get your ego in check. Like, and I love him so much for that. But I know when he stayed with us a few times, but he would meditate almost 4 hours a day, two
Yeah.
hours plus in the morning, 2 hours plus in the evening.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
really had the firm understanding he is doing so much for the consciousness of not only just this town that I'm in, or the location, or the state, like the planet, through
Yeah.
him connecting to these very, very high realms in his very deep meditation, which really is samadhi. He has realized. So just him anchoring that frequency wherever he is, but he could be anywhere. He could be India and he could be past on the other side. But when he was in the body, him doing that was doing so much for the frequency of everybody around.
It was some heavy lifting. That is for
Heavy
sure.
lifting. So tell me a little bit more about what motivated you after you came back from India and you feel like you kind of lifted all these heavy beliefs and you're starting your spiritual practice. What motivated you to start helping others so much? And what kept you really positive in that? Because I know even somebody that maybe doesn't have what you are going through, they break their arm or hurt themselves or something, and it's like depression, the whole thing, and they feel like, oh my gosh, and they might go through all of that. And it's like you've overcame that, and you're also helping so many people who are born like you or have something maybe from going to war or a
Yeah.
car accident. So, what really motivates you to do that, and how did that really shift once you came back from your spiritual journey in India?
Yeah, so I've always been like a pretty driven person and goal oriented and wanted to be successful. And then once I started to focus on like myself and go through my traumas and open myself up to other possibilities, it just was like a natural progression to want to help people, like use your energy to be in
Mm-hmm.
service.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, it was very easy because once I reflected on my journey when I was a kid, I would go to the Shriners Hospital as like a little kid and they would give me prosthetics and they didn't charge us anything. You know, my parents were super young when they had me. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
and they needed some help. And these people helped us till I was 18 years old. But in the moment, I didn't really think about it. It was just normal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in my 30s going through all this, I was reflecting on my life and was like, whoa, like I grew up in this organization that did all this amazing help for me. And at the same time that I was having this realization, I was actually going through my own um, misfortune where I didn't have prosthetics. When I
Mm-hmm.
was in India, I was basically kind of limping around. My prosthetics were broken. I couldn't move.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in that realm for like 10 to 12 months. And that was perfect for me to have that happen because I was, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do things in the
Mm-hmm.
world that helps this situation because when you can't move or you don't have access to movement, it's frustrating. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want people to go through life being frustrated because they couldn't move because they didn't have access to something. And it kind of evolved after India. You know, one thing, I just kept following these little breadcrumbs of the universe and
Mm-hmm.
leading me here, leading me here, leading me here. And sometimes the door would open and sometimes the door wouldn't open. But I think I was just excited to see what was next. So you basically had to get up the next day to see what was going to unfold. And
Mm-hmm.
that still is my life every day.
And you've taken some pretty crazy journeys, right? Like you've been everywhere. Did you go to Mount Kailash?
I haven't been to Mount Kailash yet. It's on my it's like one of my big things that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do the circumnavigate, and I want to take like a young amputee athlete with me, and maybe we'll do some endurance stuff around there, but we'll have a spiritual experience. But yeah, I've been all over the world. I've been to Ghana. I go to Europe all the time, South America. New Zealand is a big one that we do every year. So I get to mix running with speaking and advocacy, and sometimes we'll have conversations about meditation. I kind of just let it happen. I don't go with an agenda of like, I'm going to tell these people this is
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening. I just let it unfold, and in the right moments, it unfolds, and some moments don't call for that. So you just kind of got to go with it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you're working with so many younger people, right?
Yeah, I think I feel like a lot of younger people, but all ages. I mean, really, I've had people in their 80s come to some of our events.
Okay.
So there really is no like set demographic, but I do think a lot of younger people, I kind of gravitate towards them.
So I love what you were saying with how you took something that was a major disadvantage, like when you were in India and your prosthetics weren't working, to it really led you to your life purpose. So I'm wondering, with all these people that you work with, what do you think is the most common thing that you see that's kind of tripping them up? And how do you help them? Like, what advice do you give them? Because obviously they see you and you've not only you're living a life that is so flourishing that most people that have all fingers, toes, legs couldn't even dream of. Like the level of adventure and things that you're, going on and the advocacy and things that you're doing. So how do you help those that are going through that and maybe they are feeling that sense of depression? Like what is some common things that you see within your community and how do you help them overcome it in the way that you have?
I think just I am a really good listener, and I think meeting people where they are and seeing them where they are is huge. That doesn't really happen in our world today, where
Mm-hmm.
you're on the computers or you're on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of like real deep human connection going on, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like sitting with them and like meditating with them, but I am like kind of holding space similar to like what Mahatma Ji did for me,
Mm-hmm.
and hearing their struggles or hearing their dreams or, just listening to everything and then offering some advice or offering some support or being or connecting them to a network of community or creating community. And I think that is what I see is people just want to be seen, people want to be heard, and I think I have a gift of being able to do that at any moment. And it doesn't matter the walk of life. It could be Republican, Democrat, somebody from South America, somebody that doesn't even speak the same language as me.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of transference of energy because we're humans, and I like to tap into that whenever I can.
Mm-hmm. I just am very like amazed with your life and inspired by it because you've turned something that could easily set someone back and maybe, make them kind of feel a certain way about themselves or their life. And you've really did the exact opposite. And you took it and you grew with it. So I'm wondering, what do you feel are some of the biggest spiritual lessons that you've learned as a soul living and not only you grew up with this. So it's not
Yeah.
something that just recently happened, just as a child, as a teen, and then as who you are now. What are some of the biggest lessons spiritually you feel that you've kind of been through and maybe overcome or maybe are still working on with your disability and your life?
Yeah, I mean it's always unfolding, and it's always like a work in progress. But I think some of
Hmm.
the big things, like Wounds into Blessings. This is a book that I read from Fred. Fred wrote this book, and it's basically about taking our wounds and turning them into a blessing. Like a polarized thing that happened could potentially you could flip that to the opposite polarization, and then it becomes your strength. And
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
I really grasped onto that whenever I learned that. I'm like, oh, well, man, my like big wound is I'm a disabled dude. What can I do
Hmm.
with this? And it turns out that I can actually use it to do things in the world. And that to me is a gift. And
Hmm.
maybe not all disabled people would agree because, some people have super big traumas that happen in their life where they have
Hmm.
an accident and they lose an arm or a leg. Well, mine, I was born this way. So I feel like I maybe picked this journey to get there a little quicker,
Hmm.
to have some adversity, to have some struggle, to go through these things. So eventually, hoping that I would come out of it and be like, oh, well, this is what I can do. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so turning that wound into a blessing, I think also a big piece for me was like forgiving myself, like in my 30s, forgiving the 20-year-old Zach or the 18-year-old
Hmm.
Zach or the 25-year-old Zach that had so much like tension and just like, I don't want to call it rage, but I just wanted
Hmm.
to like do something. And I was like always failing and always hard on myself. And like my self-talk was crazy, like,
Hmm.
just mean to myself, nice to
Hmm.
other people, but pretty mean to myself.
Hmm.
And now as a 40-year-old, I notice, especially in like a mountain race, when it's super hard, my like self-talk is the most positive there is. I'm like, come on,
Wow.
man. Like, come on. But like before it would have been like, oh, you suck. Like, look at you. You're struggling. Like,
Hmm.
you're pathetic. So
Hmm.
that changed. And I think that's something I learned is just to be like easy on yourself. And go back and forgive those older versions of yourself that maybe you have some issues with.
Mm.
Things like that.
Do you find that your relationships change too? Because like I
Oh,
always find that like our relationships are reflections of how we feel inside and like they're just a mirror. So like if we have a lot of negative self-talk, maybe that was like reflected back or maybe
totally.
like a lack of self-love and then or emotional when someone's always like, this person's so emotionally unavailable, I keep attracting these people. I'm like, well,
Totally.
maybe you're not emotionally available to yourself. So I'm wondering how that was for you.
Oh, it was night and day flip. Like my entire
Mm-hmm.
environment around me completely changed. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I first started doing this work with Fred, it was like a couple months after he told me that I was going to be wealthy in relationships. And I
Oh.
didn't know what that meant at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, wow, that is so true. I have all these different connections all over the world that are like really meaningful. And yeah, I think once I worked through all that stuff, then I started to attract people that were on a similar journey, or maybe they were like way far on their journey, but I
Mm-hmm.
needed to be connected to them rather than, like you said, like somebody that's super unavailable or you're
Mm-hmm.
chasing this or chasing that. So yeah, my relationships changed big time.
And it sounds like you kind of just like let go of the layers of things that were kind of the impressions, the things that we held on to, and then you just got really aligned with the energy of your soul. And
Yeah,
then that, like, you're now in that energy, and then that frequency, because you're just you and you're authentic, is what
totally.
kind of magnetized all of these other relationships to you.
Yeah, I think, being authentic is huge, and it's sounds easy, but it is hard, and it's hard
Mm-hmm.
work. But I think once you do the work, it is definitely rewarding. And that changed, for me in my 30s. Before, when you're in your 20s, I think it's also just a rite of passage. Like, you got to go through it to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never want to relive my 20s, but it had to happen. You had to
Uh-huh.
go through those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just blessed to make it out. I mean, there was moments in my 20s where I may not have made it out, like I was making really bad
Mm-hmm.
decisions, putting myself in compromising situations,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't authentic. I was trying to figure out who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you wear a different mask or put on a different avatar. And yeah, yeah. So being authentic, is definitely, I think, where a lot of juice is.
So I also just want to talk to you quickly about the sports psychology piece because I
Hmm.
studied psychology. I loved it. At some point, I even thought, oh, maybe that would be where I specialize because I just think the psychology of being an athlete and especially in the competitive way, like the nature of races and things like that or games, whatever, the person's in is so intense because you're hard on yourself. You're also trying to beat other people and win, but yet there's sportsmanship and like it's a game or it's a race. It's not necessarily like, but some people, some athletes, the way that they succeed is through that negative self-talk. Some is like you were saying now it's different. So I'm wondering, did you find that your athletic performance shifted like in a positive or a negative way, or how did it shift with
Yep.
your healing journey, really?
Let's just say that I've always been striving to be a pro athlete and to be successful in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't happen until 2019, 2020. So
Mm, okay.
all my success in sports happened after all this self work and going to India. So I became a better athlete in the process. And I think just by having the processes flip and being not negative and not being tough on myself. I mean, I'm still very regimented. I'm consistent. I work with a coach. My 9 to 5 is running, and I'm very
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
dedicated in it, but it's in a different way where I'm having more fun. I'm
Mm-hmm.
enjoying it. I'm not doing it to prove anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I truly love running. And before that, I was using sports to maybe prove something like I belonged or I'm enough or I deserve
Mm-hmm.
love. And I was going about it in this way, and it never quite worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I was injured a lot because I was holding on to tension. And now it's just like a different system. It's almost like infinite energy. It's like solar. I'm like, it's there's no wall I'm hitting. I'm not like I mean, I am grinding, but I'm not grinding. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
sharpening my edges in a different way.
Do you attribute that to the meditation that's constantly fueling you, or what do you think it is?
I think it's a little bit of everything I've experienced. I think just I can call on meditation and I do it in like super intense moments. Like the mountain behind us there,
Mm-hmm.
Cotopaxi, it's
Uh-huh.
6,000 meters, which is like 19,340 feet. I climbed it in 2022 and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And it was terrifying. It's dangerous. And
Mm-hmm.
I found myself in the night going into my meditation that I learned in India.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, we're like almost on the top of the mountain, and like hours went by. And I was just in my meditation, just hammering each step, but like breathing and doing like almost visualizing being in India,
Mm-hmm.
And people that were around me were like, you were just like steady and not talking and just moving. Like, what were you doing? And I was like, well, I was actually meditating, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and so I use it in intense situations. It's something I can call on instead
Mm-hmm.
of in an intense situation in my 20s. I might have been yelling or like doing the like, rah, trying to harness energy. But
Right.
now in intense situations, it's the exact opposite. I'm going into like peace mode. And that's me dialing it in is when I'm like, okay, it's tough. Let's get real calm, you know?
So it's almost like instead of trying to generate it from something outside, it's like you instead go inside.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of the fuel, and that's what gets you going.
Totally. And I've experimented with it, like at high altitudes, with my heart rate and my like oxygen levels in my body. Everybody's struggling, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like in the bunk and I'm in my meditation. I lock in like hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I see people around me, I mean, I'm still struggling, but it's like a tool that I'm using. And
Mm-hmm.
people have asked and been curious, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm meditating. And I think a lot of people that don't know meditation think that you have to be sitting in a certain style. You got to be on a pillow. You got to like light some incense. And I'm like, no, I'll tap into it for a minute, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 30
Mm-hmm.
seconds.
Mm-hmm.
There's no rules. You just have this tool and you can access it whenever you want, you know?
Mm-hmm. I do the same. I mean, I'm not climbing mountains, but I like when I'm in like a difficult situation, let's say with work or with home life or a relationship or whatever, it's like I'll be on the phone with someone or something or, handling some business. And that's, and the second I start to feel a little bit of like that stress, anxiety, I'm like, nope, let's bring
Totally.
it back in. Like, let's bring it back inside, call on for support, ask for divine guidance. And then I just will start meditating in the same way because it's the only way I think that can really anchor you and it boosts your energy right away. And
Yeah, it does. And I think I always tell people like don't make it something like a chore.
hmm
Like
hmm
don't put it in your calendar because then if you fail, then you'll have this weird thing with it. Just know it's there and do it for a minute. And then who knows, maybe it'll be 5 minutes and then maybe 10. And then, like don't have this like I have to do this thing because then it becomes like a burden or something that, you have a weird relationship with. And I
hmm
think when I learned that, I was like, oh, wow, like I'm doing this all the time.
it's interesting because I think that works for some personalities. And then I think for other personalities, that level of like do the 10-day challenge or do
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whatever can be motivating for them. But I totally get what you're saying. And I was thinking about this the other day. I think sometimes a lot of people they kind of say that meditation shouldn't be for self-help or for anxiety relief and it should be just only for, going within to the supreme self, which I understand, but I'm also like, but there's steps and wherever you are, that's where the practice of meditation will meet you and that's where you're going to find it. So like if you are in a very anxious state and it helps to soothe that, then do it, go for it.
totally.
And then once you reach the equilibrium where you've released some of that stress, your breathing is regulated, your nervous system's regulated, and this happens on a consistent basis, then it will evolve. If you keep the practice going, it will evolve. You'll start to have realizations. You'll start to have different experiences. You'll start to feel completely different, in the end, from the very beginning of your session to the very end. And it'll go way beyond just anxiety management or stress relief, and it'll evolve eventually. But I think it's really the consistency that does that over time. Uh,
Consistency is the key.
100%, even if it's like 10 minutes a day,
Totally.
and then you build up eventually longer. But yeah, I agree. I agree. And also, I think with meditation, I've been doing this for a really, really long time. And there are still days where I sit to meditate, and it is just like my mind's going 1,000 miles an hour. And like all my stuff from the day, if I meditate at night, is coming up, or everything is
Totally.
like really late, like that I have to do tomorrow. It was exactly what you're saying in the very beginning of the interview. It's either past or future, but it's never present. So then I'm always like, okay, the anchor for everything I feel is really the breath. That's what can start to modulate the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, and just
Yeah.
pull you back into the present moment. Sometimes, even though I've been doing this for a really long time, sometimes it'll even take me 10 full minutes just to get to a place where I'm actually able just to like relax, breathe, and then start to bring my attention inwards, ground, etc. I don't think people realize that you could be doing this for a really long time and this can happen, and it's
Totally.
still a practice. It's not just like every time I drop it and I'm like, oh, visions of, you know, heaven. And this
100%.
is like, no.
It's a work in progress and it's
Yeah.
different every day. And I
Hmm.
think, especially now in 2025, when we have so many stimulations of
Yeah.
things that are happening, whether it's emails or social media or like real life relationships,
Hmm.
it's easy to get caught up in all that stuff and not have an opportunity to be in the present moment. And I think for me, I ask myself like, there's not like nothing's on fire. I'm not being chased. Nothing's gonna fall apart in the next 10 minutes. Okay, then let's put the phone down, put it in airplane mode, close the computer. People can chill for 10 minutes. There's nothing I need to respond to. And then boom, you can lock in.
I know, I'm glad you brought that up because I think what can be really hard is, especially in this time with everything that's happening economically, politically, some people are like, but the house is on fire. Like,
Totally.
like I don't have those 10 minutes and I totally get that because I've been there in that same place. When I'm having moments like that, which I've had many, it's almost like my phone. If my phone, I need to make all these calls because some situation's happening and I need to take care of it. Well, okay, I can, but if the battery is on 5% or 1%, if I don't charge up this phone, I'm not even going to be able to use it. I
Totally.
literally will not be able to make those phone calls. Sometimes I have to look at it like that. It's almost taking a second to prioritize self-care and just be
Yeah,
like, hold on. It's an essential where it's like, well, if I don't do this, I know I won't sleep well, or I
totally.
know that
It's
um,
burnout.
yes, 100%. And I do find, and I'm not sure if you find that too, but I will sleep so much better when I meditate before bed versus if I don't. If I
100.
don't, I typically have extremely active dreams,
Yeah,
very lucid dreams, not really like you don't wake up that rested when you're having these like,
totally.
crazy dream experiences. And I found like so much of that subconscious processing that we do in dream time just to release the emotions and stress, you can minimize that by doing your meditation prior to sleep. And just
Yep,
it's almost like emptying the trash bin on the computer or whatever, before you shut it down. So then the computer can chill and do its little process without being overloaded. I don't know if you had that same experience.
same experience, but what's hilarious is I don't do it very often, even though it does
Mm-hmm.
work wonders. And I'll even have the thought, I'll be watching like a Netflix, something I've seen 1,000 times before I go to bed. And I'm like, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And then I fall asleep. But yeah, I think when I do meditation before sleep, it's it's the perfect sleep. It's
I
just funny
know.
that I don't do it every day.
Well, what is funny too is most monks and ashrams and things like that, and all Eastern traditions really say it's the morning that's the most important.
Yeah,
And for me, at least, that's where I find it the hardest to make the time because I know that that can really reset your day. And I know that when I have done it in the mornings, my day has been better, not just my
totally.
sleep at night. But so it's almost like treating it, at least that's how I was always taught, like bookends. Start it your day like that, end your day like that for the best spiritual support in your life.
I agree.
Actually, I did want to bring this up. This is coming to my mind.
Yeah.
You brought this up earlier, but just about the different way that you would race and how you were kind of doing it to prove something versus doing it to have fun. And I know this was a while back, but it is something that just came up to my mind. And I do think that's really something important because a lot of Eastern traditions, they call it the seed consciousness. So
Hmm.
it's like the seed level intention behind whatever you're doing. That seed that you plant is the tree that will grow and the fruit that will come out of that tree. So
Yeah.
if the seed of whatever it is, if you're an athlete, if you're a painter, like it doesn't matter, is to gain approval, fame, whatever proves something, it will bear a completely different fruit than that of the seed of I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this for fun. How can people that are listening that are maybe they feel like they know kind of what they are supposed to be doing in life, but it feels really arduous or they're not really coming at it the right way. How did you shift from doing it for others and the proof and the from the wounding kind of aspect to doing it for fun, doing it for your because you know it's your sole purpose? How did you make that shift?
I think I started, it's kind of like writing down things on paper, right? All these different ideas. I guess some people call it like vision board. I had this like notebook and I was writing down all these things that I could do. And I kind of would look at it and take inventory on how it made me feel. And I just kind of started gravitating towards things that made me feel good,
Hmm.
and weren't like anxiety causing. And they just happened to be some pretty big goals. And one thing led to the next, and you start to achieve those goals. And I think if you look at them every single day and know that it's not going to happen overnight, but consistency of just showing up for yourself every day, as best as you can, you'll get to where you're going. And I think that was something that was huge on my journey is I wasn't showing up for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was showing up halfway for other people and maybe not at all for myself. And so once I started showing up for myself, then all the other pieces started to fall in line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think just carving that time out for yourself to figure those things out, like, knowing that you don't have to solve it today or
Right.
tomorrow,
Right, right, right.
but at least consistently showing up to do it, you'll probably figure it out.
Mm-hmm. I know that when I do sessions for people with the Akashic Records, they always say it's like if you're feeling joy, if you are literally feeling joy in that moment,
Yes,
that's when you're on the right path. Because so many
totally.
people will have the question like, I'm not sure if I'm on the right path or not. Like, how do I know? And they'll be like, do you feel joy? Does time go by very quickly and you actually have no idea that like 3 hours or 2 hours just flew by? Then you're on the right path.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like
Which
you're
is
at,
funny.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
have to remind myself to go off duty,
Mm-hmm.
because of that, where I'm like in the flow
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, whoa, I gotta like put a pause on this and take a breath and go off duty for a day, you know?
Yeah, I was just listening to this satsang from the Swami online, and he was saying like he was kind of laughing at the concept of retirement. He's like, if you love what you do and you're doing what you're supposed to do, work is never something you want to end. You never want to
Totally.
retire from it. That actually never makes you fatigued. What makes you fatigued, he was saying, is the anxiety, is your mind being in the past or in the future, not your work. If you're doing something that you truly love and that you're meant to be doing, you can do it your whole life. You can do it till you're 90, like unless it's obviously very physically laborious, but then you can shift gears and still serve in some capacity within that same field. So it's funny because I just was listening to that last night and he was saying like retirement, like what a stupid concept.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah. Well, is there any last or final message that you would like to share with any of the listeners for maybe someone going through a hard time that feels similar to the way that you felt prior to your awakening of how
Yeah.
am I going to use this situation in my life that's so difficult so I can get through it?
I think the best advice I can give is to be kind to yourself.
Hmm.
Start with that and see how it goes. That's a really simple thing, and it's not necessarily easy, but at least try to do it in a moment that is intense, and you're having those thoughts come up where you're disappointed in yourself. But just be kind in those moments and see where that goes.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Zach. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's always nice talking to you, but I really loved everything that you shared, and I think it'll give people a lot of takeaways on their personal journey. So thank
Yeah, it
you.
was my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with me and Zach and that you got some inspiration out of it and that you got some really good ahas. So, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Soul Awakening podcast. When you subscribe, you'll be notified of our new interviews and episodes that release once a week. You can find all of the episodes online on my website at catfowler.com. You can now watch the episodes on Spotify, which is awesome, on YouTube at cat_Fowler. And then also you can listen to them everywhere that podcasts are found, like Apple and iHeartRadio and all those places. So while you're listening, please don't forget to leave a review while you're there or comment if you're on Spotify. So if you love the information that you heard today and it sparked something in you, feel free to share this episode with your friends and family as well. I'm your host, Kat Fowler, and thank you again for listening. So I'm wishing you lots of peace and love and joy for your day and the rest of your week, and also just a lot of kindness towards yourself, as Zach was saying, just like radical kindness and acceptance for yourself and whatever you may be going through in this moment. And I will see you on the next episode.